meeting of four of the most important film directors working today. Four award-winning filmmakers with movies as diverse as their own biographies. We spoke to them about fear, politics, and power in a tumultuous world. Mascha Schilinski, Oliver Laxe, Jafar Panahi, Joachim Trier. We ask them what risks European cinema is taking and where it's headed.
Hi, and welcome to European Cinema on the Edge, a collaboration between DW, The Hollywood Reporter, and the European Film Academy. I'm Scott Roxborough, your host, and I'm joined here in the studio by four of the nominated directors for the European Film Award. They're also all Oscar contenders, and more importantly, their work reflects the breadth, the ambition, and the urgency of contemporary European cinema. Joining me here are Joachim Trier, the director of Sentimental Value, Grand Prix winner in Cannes, and the Oscar contender for Norway. A quietly devastating family drama about a filmmaker who tries to connect to his estranged daughters the only way that he knows how, through movies. It's a story of love, memory, and cinema. Oliver Laxe, director of the French-Spanish film Sirāt, which won the Jury Prize in Cannes and is Spain's Oscar candidate. It's a surreal, spiritual road movie that begins with a rave in the Moroccan desert before taking a sharp turn into more dystopian territory, heading out into lands and states of mind unknown. Mascha Schilinski, director of Sound of Falling, also a Jury Prize winner in Cannes and Germany's hope for the Oscars. A German period drama that follows four generations of women across a century of German history, all living on the same rural farm. It's an intimate epic of untold stories and intergenerational trauma. And Jafar Panahi, director of the Iranian-French film It Was Just an Accident, which won the Palme d'Or in Cannes and is representing France at the Oscars. It's a moral thriller set in modern-day Iran where a banal mishap triggers a twisting tale of guilt, justice, and revenge. The film is a stark warning of the corrosive evil inside authoritarian regimes, and not just the one in Iran. Well, thank you all for joining us here. This is quite amazing. I think it's incredible that you guys are all here together for this talk, for this discussion. Maybe we could start with a complex but very simple question, which is, why did you all become directors? What drove you to choose this bizarre, complicated, and incredibly demanding profession? And maybe, Joachim, start with you. I mean, you actually, as a young person, you were a professional skateboarder, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, how did you become a director?
At least I had a sponsor, and I was a competitive skateboarder. Yeah, I think it's because I'm a third-generation filmmaker. Looking back, I would probably have been ashamed about saying that earlier in my career, but I think that my grandfather was a filmmaker. Affected me tremendously. My parents were both in movies. My father's a sound designer, my mother a director of documentaries primarily. I think it's the thing that I saw grown-ups play around and be in big collective groups, you know, in the rain, trying to do something beautiful, to make an image, be with actors. I kind of grew up on film sets, and I love those people. And I was a bit of a kind of restless young person. I didn't love school. I found my way into skateboarding, and there I started filming my friends. And I made these films when I was 15, 16 years old, where I would just film a whole summer and cut it together with music. And it wasn't only skating, it was also lives of people I knew, kind of recounting a summer every year. And slowly I just realized that's what I want to do with my life.
And Mascha, what was it like for you? How did you slip into this profession?
Yeah, so I was a little bit a troublemaker in school. So I left school before school could kick me out. And so I had no graduation. And I traveled some years. And then I realized I would love to do study. But there was no graduation, so I was looking for what can I study without a graduation, and the only thing was film.
The only thing left, the bottom of the barrel, so to speak.
Yeah, so and of course the good thing was I knew something about film because, like as Joachim, my mom worked in film, so I knew about this life from film, or that there are jobs and about this film life, yeah. And then I studied first a screenplay writing, and then I wrote a couple of years, and then I decided that I want to love to do own films, and and then I studied directing at the Film Academy Baden-Württemberg.
Okay, so you did actually go sort of a traditional route and getting into the actually studying the education of it. But Oliver, you came from a completely different direction, right? You didn't study, you didn't have any of that sort of formal training. How did and why did you feel compelled to become a director?
In a way, I don't know. It's in a way I'm like escaping. I was like escaping reality, and images, and this inner world was warm, was tasty. So I think this is the taste of images, this flavor that I like to imagine. I like to translate it into images, and it's warm. It's just the good feeling. I don't know. So I do this. I surrender to this when I
surrendering to the images and to the warmth. And Jafar, for you, was it a more traditional way, or how did you end up coming to cinema in that way, and thinking I have to get behind the camera, I have to make these images?
For me, so I have been raised in a worker class, and for us there was no entertainment. The only thing that we had was a library in our neighborhood. So I always was there, and I think I was 11 or 12. I was quite a chubby boy, and because of that, someone asked me if I want to act in a film, and I said, yeah, why not? So it was that time that they made Super 8 films, and I said, yes, sure. And I was on set for the first time. I have seen a camera, and I have realized that there is some person looking from this camera into the world, and I really liked that behind of the camera. I wanted to see the world behind the camera, and because I was quite naughty, I wasn't allowed to get there, and I really had this obsession with me to look at the world from the camera. Until I was 13 or 14 that I started working in the summer, and I saved my money, and I could buy a photography camera. That was a Zenith camera, and that was the starting point. I started taking photos, and I started also working with images, and I worked as a photographer, and then I studied at college cinema.
So it's interesting. The link I have with all of you is you were really misbehaved children. I think none of you were doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is maybe the best school for becoming a director. Jafar, we'll all talk about the films and your amazing films in a second. But I would like to start, maybe and have to start with your country, Iran, and what's happening there. I mean, you yourself have been in prison in Iran, imprisoned by the regime. The film you just made, it was just an accident, is a story of a former political prisoner who thinks he sees his or recognizes his former torturer on the street and decides to sort of take revenge. I'd just like to know, I mean, what's your reaction to what's happening in Iran right now? What's happening in the streets and the repression that's happening from the regime?
The reality is that this repression has always been there in Iran after the revolution, and everything that the people demanded. So the answer to that, the response to that was repression, and it's nothing new. But the new thing is that this time that we see that people this time they attack people, they shoot at people with weapons, and within 48 hours we have seen mass murder. And it is unbelievable what has happened. It's very difficult to understand. And the more they murder the people, the better you realize that this regime, the time with this regime is over. They are not able to take over the government when they fight against their own people with military weapon. And that blood pool that we see is, for me, I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. In my last film, I had a hope, kind of hope that this circle of violence will end at some point, and after this regime we will have some kind of peace. But with this kind of violence that we have experienced, my fear is that even after this regime, we don't forget this kind of violence, and it even worse happens.
It's maybe an awkward transition to talk about films now, but I mean, I wonder for all of you, even if you're not talking about politics specifically in your films, it's not the subject of your films, do you consider, as filmmakers, do you consider filmmaking a political act? Is it in some way political, even if the subject is very personal and very, very close?
I think that there is nothing more political than the poetic. I think that cinema is really a tool that can heal the collective imaginary, I think. It can elevate conscience. And after, so there are a lot of different kind of filmmakers. There are ones who are more ideological, and other more poetical. I don't know, I think that the purpose is to touch the human heart. If we do this, this is the most political act that we can do.
Your film, Sound of Falling, I mean, it carries through sort of all a century of German history, but it's told from the perspective of untold stories, from sort of a female perspective, young women and girls living on this small farm in eastern Germany. And as I think I mentioned, it's a story of sort of intergenerational trauma. I mean, did you see the film as a political statement?
Ich sag das mal auf Deutsch.
Well, initially, we weren't concerned about the political aspect at all. What we really wanted to do was to look into the deepest depths of the people who lived there and to narrate from those depths. And while we were conducting the research, we realized that there are these concealed stories. There are hidden, untold stories of women, which tend to be neglected because they're in the margins of history. Many of those women could not read or write. And these are often stories that are so shot through with shame that people wouldn't even talk about them on their deathbed. Initially, we didn't intend to make a film told just from the female perspective. We looked into intergenerational trauma and the way in which trauma is passed down from generation to generation. However, at one point we realized that there is a striking distinction. There's the question as to how women were looked at for over a century, and women are looked at differently than men, and through the course of time. And we realized this as well because we were looking at this specific location where we shot the project. In the former GDR, in what used to be East Germany, the film became more and more political. While we were making it, that wasn't our initial intention, though.
It's really interesting because I think there are some connections, even though your films are very different, Sasha, with Joachim's film, because Sentimental Value, which is the story of this film director played by Stellan Skarsgård, who is trying to reconnect to his estranged daughters, and he only seems to have the medium of film to do it. And it is a sort of story of how history continues in ourselves and in our bodies. And this film, Sentimental Value, is there autobiographical components of it? Is that sort of part of the spark that drove you to make the movie?
I think the film is about autobiography. It's about how people express themselves in indirect ways through the medium they choose. And that came into play in my life because in the context of what we're talking about now, Norway has been a country of peace since the Second World War and the 5-year occupation of the Nazis. My grandfather, who then became a filmmaker, was in work camp during the war because he was a very brave man and he was in the resistance. And it's kind of magical that he survived. And he started doing music as a jazz musician and then became a film director. And I've always thought, in order to survive, going back to what Oliver is saying, I think he became a pacifist and quite political. I think he tried to find a way to express himself. In my life, I have now got 2 children, and the world is a very complicated place, many places in the world. And I'm asking myself, as I write this film with Eskil Vogt, even though we're making a story about a family at peace, they're trying to reconcile with history because they are realizing, as they're trying to forgive a difficult father, that he is very affected by being the first generation after the war and having a mother who has been traumatized by the Second World War. And I ask myself, how many generations does it take after a war or after a war trauma before it stops affecting people? And that's the question I ask when I look at my kids. Will I be the wall that changes things? Or will those events that are so far in the past seemingly still be alive in how they perceive? And there's a really strange dichotomy, and I also love that in your film, the ambivalence of memory. We owe the past to remember and to tell those stories, yet we also owe a new generation a sense of openness to the possibilities of a future that's not affected and tainted. And that ambivalence becomes then the individual's relation to history. And in a strange way, I see a lot of films this year that deals with that.
I mean, Jafar, your film is deal with the history, the past traumas, dealing with the trauma of this moment. And you made the film after getting out of a prison. Was it at all inspired by that experience? And is it for you a film about vengeance or about the dangers of vengeance? Because the characters who want to carry out revenge find themselves trapped in a moral quandary of what to do, of how to find justice.
Before I want to answer this question, I want to say that I don't see myself as a politically engaged filmmaker because I have a certain definition for political films. For me, it's like more the parties, so about that ideology that divides people into good and bad people. I'm more a socially engaged filmmaker. In those films, there is no absolute good or bad human being, but also it's the situation that make this person good or bad. So I think that everyone, everything, every ideology should be respected, and they have to have their share, to have their own contribution. And this is what happened in my film. For example, about that torturer in this film, I have tried to give him also a certain share. What does it mean? It means that in the whole film, every character they are all talking about one person who this who is absent. So he is in a box in a car. And because I wanted to be fair also towards to him, my decision was that in the end of the film, I gave him a shot for 13 minutes, a medium shot, so that we can see him in the footage and we see the others come and go. And the camera doesn't turn toward those other people because this is his share. He should have also this opportunity to have a defense, what happened to him, so that he turned to this kind of human. So my films are mostly social films with a political subject or theme, or maybe I make a film about the war, but it is still a social film about the war and not about the politics. Yes, sure. Today in this world, in the countries that are under authoritarian regimes, even your clothes could be political. How you live, how you behave, everything can be political. But when we are talking about the films, it's not about politics anymore. It's about the society. It's about the humans.
It's interesting to mention the society because that's something that struck me very much with your film, Oliver, is that it is this subculture, this society, this underground rave culture that we start in this rave in the desert before it goes off. I won't give any spoilers, but it goes off into very different territory. What is it about that community, that sort of the underground rave culture, which I think I'll speak for a lot of people, I never knew even existed before I saw your movie, that was so emblematic for you that you wanted to explore it, and you thought explored the themes and the issues that you wanted to explore in your movie?
Do you have 2 hours? I mean, a lot of things, but I will choose one that is related with what my colleagues were talking about. That is the wound. I think that we are, all of us, broken because different factors. Joachim, you were talking about the war. In my country, the hungry, also the civil war. I mean, and I think that the ravers. I mean, all of us, we are broken, but in a way we hide this wound. But ravers, they show it. Their bodies is showing this, and I think it's really healthy. I think that we are on a moment that to stop the pain, you know, to stop this suffering, you know. That is provoked from people who are suffering. We suffer, so we provoke suffering. To stop this, it's really important to connect with the wound, to celebrate the wound, to dance the wound, to connect with our shadows, with our, I think, and it's something that since the beginning I met this community, I like it. I was more idealistic, you know, more like identify with an idealistic image of myself. And this process being with them and raving was more like, okay, let's look inside and let's dance this wound in order to stop the pain.
I find so interesting what you said right now, Oliver, because when my co-author Louise and me started the writing process of Sound of Falling, we were so curious about the fact that our bodies are more transparent than we are. So there is a line or a sentence in the film from Sound of Falling where Angelica, this girl in the 80s, say, that's so funny that our head is blushing when we are full of shame or when we try to hide something in this moment where we really don't want that anybody can see that we are nervous or something's going on. So our body is so much more transparent than we learned that we have to be, because it would be dangerous to show something like this.
Do you, as directors, do you see filmmaking partially as personal therapy of like working through your own issues, your own traumas?
I don't make films with a clear plan on why I'm doing it. I just don't know how to do anything else. And it's the weird thing. I don't know how you guys feel, but...
the same.
Yeah, but it's the passion for the form. I love movies. I grew up in the movie theaters. I think movies all the time. You know, I'm sitting in situations and I'm looking at people. This is interesting, behavioral stuff, psychological stuff, the mysteries of the others that I still find engaging and interesting. And then being allowed to make characters that is not me or my co-writer or my cinematographer or the actors, actually. It's something in between us, something human that's an abstraction. But yet we can then start filling something in. It's just far enough removed from myself so that I don't feel that I have to be ashamed of what they're doing or protect them or anything. I can be three-dimensional. I can look at them and study them and collaborate around these characters. And I think that's what the kick is.
I don't know if I'm optimistic about the future of our world, but I'm definitely, after seeing your movies and talking to you, very optimistic about the future of European cinema. So thank you all for joining me. And thank you all for joining us here for the European Cinema Roundtable, collaboration between DW, the Hollywood Reporter, and the European Film Academy. I'd like to again just thank all my participants. Thank Joachim Trier, Oliver Laxe, Mascha Schilinski, and Jafar Panahi. Please seek out their movies, see them in festivals, in theaters, wherever you can. These are really movies that matter. They're films that meet the moment. They may not have all the answers, but as Mascha said, at least they're asking the right questions. Thank you very much, and I'll see you at the movies.